Hey, what's up guys? Brian Kelly here. If this is your first time to the channel, let me just give you a very quick introduction. So I run a website called Zombie Guitar, and Zombie Guitar is a website that's heavily focused on teaching people theory and just basically making sure that they understand the fretboard inside and out, with the goal of writing your own music or improvising solos and just knowing what you're doing at all times at all the different places you could possibly play on the fretboard. That's what Zombie Guitar is about. So in doing that, I've had a lot of people over the years ask me, how did I learn all this theory? Where did I get my education from? All that stuff. So I've had a lot of teachers over the years. I've read a lot of books. I've done a lot of self-study. But there are three very, very distinct moments in my life that caused the greatest aha moments. And that's what this video is about. So I'm going to share with you the three tools that have caused the greatest aha moments in my music career, if you want to call it that, and what exactly those aha moments were. So let's get started. So the first tool that has helped me the most in putting together the pieces of this big fretboard puzzle is something that I picked up about 15 years ago, and that is this looper pedal right here. So this is a Boss RC20XL. It's the older model of the Boss Loop Station. You can see how dirty it is. It's dirty and nasty and crusty. It is the favorite pedal that I've ever picked up for guitar. And the main reason I like this pedal is because it basically answers the age-old question, why do I need to practice my scales? If you go on guitar forums, or if you go on Reddit or whatever, or you go on Facebook groups, someone's always asking, why do I need to practice my guitar scales? Well, this is the answer to that. This is the answer I always give people. You need to practice your scales over a backing track of some sort, or some sort of rhythm section. So let me just demonstrate very, very quickly of what I mean by that. Let's just say I'm practicing some A minor pentatonic stuff or A natural minor scales or whatever. So I would just be sitting there like this. Just running up and down these scale patterns, trying to memorize where the notes fit in on each string. But it doesn't really sound musical, and a lot of people will ask, okay, why do I need to do that? What's the purpose of learning these scales? And just having a looper pedal, let me just show you how much of a difference that can make. So I just have a simple chord progression saved in here. It's A minor to G major to F major back to G major, putting you in the key of A minor, and that same practice might sound like this. So all of a sudden the scale starts to sound musical, and that's because you're playing it over a chord progression that's in key. So I'm practicing my A minor stuff, my A minor scales, my A minor pentatonic scale, my A natural minor scale. Now you play a rhythm or a backing track of some sort that is in the key of A minor, and suddenly those scales start to sound like music. It's a musical framework for which you can use to improvise in. So having a looper pedal is like having a rhythm guitar player on hand at all times that will sit there and play the rhythm perfectly for as long as I want until I'm done practicing. So the second tool that's had the greatest impact in helping me to understand this fretboard puzzle is something that I picked up about 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago, and that is a piano. So the big aha moment that I had when I got this piano 8 years ago, or whenever I got it, was that the chord scale connection really started to make sense. So as guitar players, we tend to learn chords as beginners, and then as we get a little bit more advanced, then we tend to learn scales. But it's usually not until many years later that we start to put the two together and really see how it all is one and the same thing. Chords, scales, the chord scale connection, it's all just music. With piano, that's day one stuff. You start learning the chord scale connection from day one, and it's just essentially just like basic knowledge to any piano player. So let me show you what I mean, and then I'll show you how it applies to the guitar. So when you start playing piano, you start learning how to play in key signatures from day one. So what I mean by that is if you look at the piano keyboard, there is all these notes. There's actually 88 total keys. but really there's only 12 notes. So, for example, the note that falls right in front of the two black keys, the white key right here, that's your note C. So there's two black keys up here, and then the key that falls right in front of it, right there, the white key, that's the note C also. So you have a C here. And then anywhere else where there's two black keys, the white key right in front of it, that's the note C. So the same applies to the guitar fretboard. There's only 12 notes on the guitar fretboard, and those 12 notes can be found all up and down the neck of the guitar in many different octaves across all the different strings. But at the end of the day, there's only 12 notes. So out of those 12 notes, if you take 7 of those 12 notes, that's how you come up with a key signature. So there's 12 possible notes, therefore there's 12 possible key signatures, and each key signature is a combination of white keys and black keys. So the sharps and flats stuff, those are the black keys. The natural notes are the white keys. So the most common key signature to learn first would be the key signature of C major, which is just white keys and contains no sharps or flats, so there's no black keys. So practicing your C major scale, you have this, starting on the note C. So that's my C major scale, no black keys. If I wanted to play in a different key signature, say I wanted to practice the key of G major, I would start on the note G, which is right here. You see your 3 black keys, the one that's in that position, that's your note G. The key signature of G has 6 white keys and 1 black key. So when you're running through the scale, by the time you get to this note here, which is the note F, you instead play an F sharp, and that's that unique set of 7 notes. So here's your G major scale. Or if you wanted to play in the key signature of, say, D major, you would start on the note D, and you would run through the scale until you got to the next note D. And the key signature of D major has 5 white notes and 2 black notes, or 5 white keys and 2 black keys, otherwise known as this key signature contains 2 sharps. So starting on D, so there's 5 white keys and 2 black keys in this key signature. So there's 12 possible key signatures, 12 possible combinations of white and black keys, and that's just day 1 stuff on the piano. So let's see how the chords are created from these different key signatures. So let's go back to the key signature of C major, because that's easy to see and easy to visualize. So that's only white keys. So in order to get your chords, you start on one of the notes of the scale. So the notes of the scale are the white notes. And then you just start on one of the notes, and then you just play every other note, and that's how you come up with your chords. So the first chord in the key of C major would start on the note C, and then play every other note. The second chord in the key signature of C major would start on the second note, and then play every other note. Third chord, fourth chord, fifth chord, sixth, 7th chord, and then you're back on your starting chord in the higher octave, which is C major. Alright, and then usually you want to use your left hand to add bass notes. And when you're playing piano and you're playing chord progressions, so if I wanted to play, you know, maybe a 4-chord chord progression like this, so you can do that, and that's a simple chord progression in this key. So then the next thing that you learn on the piano is to start playing what is known as inversions. So the purpose of inversions is to make it so you're not jumping all over the place with your chords. So instead of jumping from here to here to here to here, you could play those same 3 notes. So for the C major chord, instead of playing it like this, I might want to take this note here, which is the note C, and I might want to play this C up here instead, while leaving the other 2 notes the same. So it's the same chord, it's just a different inversion. And then when you keep your bass note consistent, which is the note C, it sounds the same, but slightly different. So this is versus So when you're doing that, the whole purpose is to kind of keep your hand in one position. So rather than jumping from here to here to here to here, you may want to just kind of go from So I was just playing the same thing over and over. I was just playing that same 4-chord chord progression, but I was playing the chords using various different inversions. So that right there, that's not something you think about when you're playing guitar. You're not really thinking about, you're just thinking of your bar chord shapes, or you're thinking about your open chord shapes and things like that. But when it really starts to click is when you start seeing that, okay, the chord tones are the notes of the chord. Those are the notes that sound good. But then the other notes, the rest of the scale notes, they still work, but they're not the best notes to land on. So if I wanted to kind of like improvise in that same chord progression, when I'm on this chord, the C chord, I could still do fills using other notes, but my best sounding notes to land on over the C major chord are going to be the C major chord tone. So hopefully you're able to hear the difference between a chord tone, which kind of sounds like the home note or the perfect note to land on, but all the other scale notes work. So then when I want to jump to my next chord, I want to jump to this chord. This note, this note, this note are going to be my best sounding notes. Remember, I can also play this note here. Alright, so just kind of running through that progression and just kind of noodling around, you might do something like this. A digital audio workstation, or DAW for short. So this has helped me out in so many ways in understanding things like EQ and compression and different types of reverbs and different types of delays and how to mix music and stuff like that. But the thing that had the most direct help with my guitar playing has been to see visually and feel different subdivisions. So when I talk about subdivisions, I'm talking about things like eighth notes and 16th notes and triplets and sextuplets and stuff like that. So let me just show you what I mean. So the project here is set to a tempo of 120. I then have a click track playing at this 120 tempo. This is in 4/4 timing. That means there's 4 clicks for every bar. So these thick lines here, the thicker lines are the start of each bar. So here's a bar, here's a bar, here's a bar, and here's a bar. So there's 4 clicks for every bar. So it's 4/4 time signatures, so it sounds like this. So it's the same thing as setting your metronome to 120 BPMs in a 4/4 time signature. It's the same exact thing. So now I can go and add some drums, and then we can look at this on the grid editor like this. And I have my grid here. I have it set to eighth notes. I can set it to whatever I want.
but I have it set to eighth notes because I want the hi-hat to play an eighth note pattern. So this is my hi-hat, this is my snare, this is my kick drum. So there's 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 subdivisions for each of these bars. Here's bar 1, here's the start of bar 2, here's the start of bar 3, here's the start of bar 4. So you can see that the hi-hat is doing an eighth note pattern, fitting 8 notes into each bar. And then the kick drum is landing on the 1 and the 3. And then the snare drum is landing on the 2 and the 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. While the eighth note, or while the hi-hat is counting eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Putting it all together, you have so snare drum or hi-hat's going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the kick and snare are going 1, 2, 3, 4, kick, snare, and you can visually see all of that right here on this grid. So it's very obvious when you look at it on a grid. So then I made a bass line, and the bass line just kind of gives me a key to solo in. I programmed the bass line to be in the key of A minor, but rhythmically it fits such that a bass note lands on each of the clicks of the click track. So let me mute the drums and I'll show you what the bass sounds like. So looking at the bass grid editor, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's just the bass line is just playing quarter notes. I have the grid set to quarter, so you can clearly see it's landing on the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4. The 1, the 2, the 3, the 4. So there's that. Putting that together with the drum beat, you have Alright, so then the next thing is I have sounds set at quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, and triplets, so you can really hear what like a lead guitar part should sound like as far as the subdivisions go. So let me show you what quarter notes sounds like. First I'll show you the grid. The grid is set to 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. The grid is set at quarter. It's set to quarter notes, so you only see 4 subdivisions per bar, and that sounds like this. So then I have another one set at eighth notes, so you can see and hear and feel what eighth note sounds like. So let me click on that. This is set to eighth, so there's 8 subdivisions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for each bar. 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, 4 bar. So the count for eighth notes is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that sounds like this. So that's eighth notes. So 16th notes, the count for 16th notes is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So you're fitting in a total of 4 notes for each click, a total of 16 notes for each bar. So looking at that on the visual editor, I have this grid set to 16th notes. You're fitting 16 subdivisions for each bar. There's the start of bar 1. There's the start of bar 2. There's the start of bar 3. There's the start of bar 4. And there's 16 subdivisions going on. And I have a note on each of those subdivisions. So there's 16 total notes, giving you a count of 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. And that sounds like this. So that's 16th notes. And then another type of subdivision would be triplets. So triplets, you're getting 3 notes for every click of the click track. So looking at that on the grid, I have my grid set to triplets. So you have your start of bar 1. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. And there's 3 notes, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, fitting into this 4/4 time signature, and it sounds like this. So that's triplets. So, that was just a couple examples. That was quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, and triplet examples of the types of feel that I can apply to my own guitar playing. So I can practice my scales. I can practice playing over, rhythm sections. I can practice targeting chord tones. But on top of all that, I can also practice these different subdivisions. I want to practice the feeling of these different subdivisions. That way my timing for my lead phrases and stuff like that will always be in some sort of time rhythmically with the music. So, seeing it visually on a graph, seeing exactly how these subdivisions fit into a 4/4 time signature tempo, it's clear as day with a digital audio workstation. So that's just another aspect that has really helped my guitar playing in ways that I don't think I would have came across those same aha moments had I not used a digital audio workstation. So this is the third most important tool that I have found to help my guitar playing.
So there you have it. Those are my 3 most impactful teachers that I've had in my 30 years of trying to learn how to play guitar and understand this fretboard. Number 1, you have a looper pedal, which allows you to take scales and then apply them over rhythm sections so you can really hear how scales are music and not just boring scale patterns. 2, the piano, which really allowed me to see the chord scale connection, which I now see on the guitar very clearly, but it wasn't until I started playing piano that stuff really started to click for me. And then 3, working in a digital audio workstation allows me to visually see the different subdivisions that you would be able to fit over to a metronome click track, 8th notes, 16th notes, triplets, and all types of other subdivisions that you can clearly see exactly what's going on. You can hear how they sound, and then you can take them and then incorporate it into your own practice routine. So those 3 things are my 3 things that helped me the most. Maybe they may help you out as well. If you have any questions or comments, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.